Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? In the back, too? Everything's cool? Okay, great. Yeah. Turn it up a little bit. Hello, test. Yeah, this is perfect. So, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this talk. Um, Obviously, we're here to give context to giving fashion a new beginning. I was already in the space before, and a lot of nice things have been going on right here. So, first of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Amsterdam Fashion Week, for making this all possible. I'm super excited to get into the talk with all of you. So let's get into it. So today we're bringing together inspiring voices from across the fashion industry, each working on solutions to reduce waste and give clothing a second life. I'll be your moderator. I'm Jonas from Kledingkast, a Dutch fashion platform that aims to make the Netherlands smaller through showcasing fashion projects. And I'll be guiding you through this conversation. But let me quickly introduce our guests. So on the end, we have René, founder of One Off, a brand that transforms existing garments into unique upcycled pieces. Just opened a crazy installation on Beursplein today, so congrats with that. We have Alabel Poe, representing Kanta Social Club in Ghana, an organization that highlights the global impact of secondhand clothing and creates opportunities through upcycling, which has been going on right here today. And then we have Ellen Mensing, founder of Bright Fiber Inside, a company that turns discarded clothing into new fibers and yarns, helping to close the loop in fashion. Thank you all for coming. So, first of all, I'd like to ask um, about your personal connection to this topic. Obviously, all of you have been working in this field for a while. So, I'd just like to get your thoughts, maybe talk about what you do and how it relates to what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I can start. So thank you for the introduction. I'm the founder of One Off. What we do is we transform vintage and then we make unique, hopefully desirable clothing that we sell worldwide to stores. Really have the aim to make like new pieces from what's already in the market and what we leave behind. And I think for me, what really inspires me, like I worked a lot also in the vintage industry, but also I have a family that did fashion businesses. So I saw firsthand how much there is left behind. So for me, it was really a passion to make something like a new contemporary brand, but on based on vintage and something that's already existing.
That sounds cool. I'm Ella Mensink. I'm CEO of Bright Fiber Inc. We make end products and fabrics from old clothes. I started 12 years ago, first with my own brand. Our company is specialized in system change. So we want to change the system from old clothes, making in the end new fibers, new fabrics, and new end products. What we do in the Netherlands is we sort for recycling and we clean for recycling. We have a factory in Wormerveer, and we have a new factory we just launched in April, where we make post-consumer fibers from old clothing. And what we're specialized in is working with local material. We mostly only produce in our factories old clothes to fibers. We have our own yarn collection. We work together with four spinners in Europe that make our yarns. So we deliver our fibers and we buy back the yarns. We have about 8 to 10 collections in 15 colors. And we make a fabric and an end product. So we sell end products, but we integrate it backwards because, yeah, there was not a system in the Netherlands. So we decided to do it ourselves.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll share the mic. Hi, everyone. I'm Annabelle Poe. I'm the co-founder of Kanta Social Club, and you're currently actually in our space for Amsterdam Fashion Week. We are an upcycle fashion platform that supports marginalized communities on the front line of textile waste. So we work with Kanta Market. There's some statistics actually behind you. 15 million pieces of secondhand garments arrive every week into this market. And they have a vibrant community of 30,000 tailors, designers, and retailers recirculating, reselling, repairing, and upcycling basically our waste. They are actually the end of the supply chain. So that's where all the clothes actually end in the global supply chain. And they have not been really spotlighted in the fashion industry at all. They're also a hub for circularity. We see them as the largest remanufacturing space and an informal community that remanufactures up to 9 million pieces of garments every single week. So there's a lot to learn from communities like that. And as a platform, we highlight them, we spotlight them. We hope to also learn from them and rebalance the scale within the fashion industry.
That's a very hefty introduction for everyone. So thank you for that. I feel like we're all contributing to the same mission, just in a different way. So I find that really special. And I think from that, I want to fire off the starting question. What was the point where you realized that you had to make a difference in the industry? Maybe Ellen, you could start.
I think it was in 2013 when the factory collapsed in Bangladesh, in Bahana Plaza. And I was looking at it and I thought nobody in the world wants to buy a clothing from a factory like that who does not care for their people. But actually we all do it. And the reason is because it's so far away. It's very intransparent. You have no involvement with it. And this is also the reason why I thought we need to make and produce closer by, especially in this phase, because there's a lot of innovation and energy and passion needed to change this industry. So I thought I need to do it here and not in Bangladesh or in China.
For me, it was a bit more personal. I think that was when I felt that I was like losing love for fashion. Like I just saw collections coming in, and every city, like we used to go as a family, like to different cities for really inspiration and really like finding out new brands. But nowadays, like all the brands are at the same, like in all the stores, and I just saw the same thing over and over again. And then also I saw that the whole retail industry just had such difficulties, and that's where I thought like I really want to create like a product that's really an experience on itself in the product, and just something unique for people to wear, and not like that everybody's just wearing the same stuff all the time. Yeah, and then with like an also a value to it, so you care more for the product, you're proud, you will talk about it, you will talk about where you buy it. I think that was for me a bit the starting point.
I mean, I've been working at the beginning of the supply chain in the fashion industry for a while now, both for fashion and automotive in terms of material innovations. And most of the materials don't go to market. And I also realized that honestly, when I got to know about Kanta, the immense scale of what's happening there really impacted me. I was in Ghana in April this year, and you can see in this picture over here, the beaches, you barely see the sand. You see clothes and plastic, and people fish there. They actually wash their clothes there. That for me is one of the biggest impactful moments, like picking up the entangled clothes and putting it into a trash bag. You realize that you buying this one shirt in Primark has this outcome. So yeah, that for me is the biggest eye-opening part of it.
Yeah, I think it's our job to make people realize how much waste there truly is and how things can be desirable and then not. You know, I think that's such a shame. And I think especially looking at that picture over there, like probably a lot of things people paid a lot of money for, you know, and then it's just discarded, right? And I think Renee, what you do with One Off is like recontextualizing that, like putting that into a new light, giving it a new life. And I wanted to ask you, how do you create that desirability from existing pieces?
I mean, I think as a designer, it's always like a vision that you have that you think is desirable. But then also, I always try to keep like the existing details of the previous designer as well. So you will definitely see the labels, but you will see other stitching that I didn't touch. And that's for me, I think that contrast between the past and now, that's for me a desirable piece.
And how has that changed over the years from your starting to now? And also, how is it going to change in the future?
Yeah. A lot. Yeah, of course, you also really are looking for a product market fit. So you first off, we started with actually transforming vintage jackets. Sorry, so Chanel vintage jackets that were already destroyed, which was super cool, but like not scalable at all. And also very high price points. So then, yeah, you only speak to a very niche of people. So we really are looking for a way to just find a way to produce on a certain scale and really keeping the prices lower. So, for instance, now what we do, we sometimes add like also existing fabrics into the garment, so you can actually work with the patterns and you can determine the fit, which obviously is super important if you resell something. Um, and then now we're also working on something to make it more accessible. It will take a bit of time, but I think that's going to be a very cool next step for One Off, and also very important to reach more people and also to inspire more people to think different about clothing.
Very well said. Thank you. I have a similar question for you, Annabelle. Um, Again, I'm going to refer to the picture because it's just so strong. Yeah, can you talk to us about what's going on in Ghana right now, and specifically on the cultural aspect and how upcycling is related to that?
Okay, so upcycling is not a new concept. Upcycling has been ingrained in actually many cultures. I mean, the Ghanaians have been doing this out of resourcefulness, out of frugality and respect for the materials. I think most of our grandmas probably had the same thing where you keep a textile for a long time and you repair it and then you pass it down to the next generation. So it is a mentality that is still in their culture. And in terms of I just wanted to talk about something completely different actually.
Super.
I mean, today the two designers that we tried to bring to the Netherlands, their visas got denied for the second time to the Netherlands, and I would like to take this opportunity to talk about the fact that waste travels from the global north into the global south so easily, and people who have the talent and the expertise in remanufacturing techniques cannot come here. So it's talking about opportunities, about barriers within infrastructure as well. So this is something that I think is very important to note in this global supply chain. Yeah, and in terms of upcycling as a culture, now going back to the question, I think building off of what Renee said, the within to make upcycling more desirable and more accessible to people and the public, I think it's very important to, of course, build it into culture, into music, into different avenues so that people like you can have access to interesting one-off pieces. Yeah, so
And I think that's where we all would like to see it going, right? But I think we still have a way to go. And Ellen, we were just talking how you're in this game for 12 years, right? In the production. Um, how have you seen the change within that 12 years in the production aspect?
Well, that's quite a question. The change, what we see that there was a change when Stientje van Veldhoven, State Secretary, decided to launch the UPV, the Extended Producer Responsibility. That made a major change because before that moment, it was just an idea and people were talking about it. And I was very, how we say it, I had a lot of perseverance and belief that you could make very nice clothes from old clothes, not only by remaking it, but actually taking beautiful materials back and put it in new yarns and fabrics. But we still had to prove it. So during the last 10, 12 years, we're able to make much nicer yarns, much nicer fabrics. And the brands are still lagging behind because they don't really know. They still have this perception of that it's old clothes and it's not nice. And, so there's much more possible, which we also put a lot of effort in. And also, what really made a change was the new legislation, because then brands became aware, like, oh my God, I have to do
They have to
something,
do it now
and they
too.
have to do it. But still, it's not really maintained by the government. So they have this, they get very restless, and they have to pay a lot of money. So you can imagine, if you have a $500 million revenue within the Netherlands, how much money you need to pay per kilo. So they suddenly realized, like, hey, maybe I should put that money into something else, like that really makes a difference. So that really helps us. So for us, our company is really about volume, like putting the volume up and getting the price down in time, and making a difference in terms of production. And for us, I think we're the first factory in the world that has these 3 steps in one hand, like cleaning, sorting, cleaning, and making fibers of it. And that for us was
That's amazing, by the way.
that was a really big step. And it sounds easy because they're just different machines, but we made them custom made, and we still have to connect them to each other. And we see that as something that we need to like share and duplicate it to other regions, and maybe even to Bangladesh, so that we can do it everywhere around the world, not only here. So I think from these different perspectives, the quality and the materials went much better. The legislation is better. It needs to be much better. And yeah, we also managed to make different machines that actually are able to do that.
So you have all of this knowledge in house, like this capacity, or you were talking about convincing brands to join. So, and I think volume and price is one thing for brands, but how do you properly convince a brand to become sustainable or to take extra steps?
A lot of different ways, especially before. This is our new sales director. He's from G-Star. So having the right people in house that know the brands and what they need and want. But also for us, it's about make it more easy for brands. That's why we don't sell fibers or yarns. We sell fabrics and end products, because for the brands it's difficult. And we also get to understand circular textiles. And yeah, all the brands have a difficulty at the moment. There are a lot of bankruptcies, etc. So they have something else to focus on. And this is also the reason we offer them take back. We offer them an analysis to understand what the collection really is and how to become circular. And we offer them very clear products. So see, we can just make that for you, and it's 40% old clothes from the local market. So it's just possible, and let's just do it. Stop talking, start walking.
Yeah, amazing.
Can I
Yeah, I really, yeah. I wanted to ask your perspective on this.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
No, yeah. For instance, in the vintage industry, you see actually that the quality of the vintage pieces are decreasing because of all the fast fashion that actually comes into the vintage right now. Is that also a problem for your company, or if the quality decreases in value or in richness or in purity?
The thing is, we have a sorting company that sorts for reuse and for recycling.
Yeah.
And actually, what really is the problem, that we have more difficulties with selling secondhand clothes.
Yeah.
Because the value becomes less.
Yeah.
And because, of course, Ukraine and Russia closed down. At the same time, it sounds really not nice, but more and more waste is there, which needs to be upcycled.
Yeah.
And people always think that when something has a low value, in times it starts to pill very quickly, etc.
Yeah.
But when you upcycle and you make new yarns, you can also make from old material new composition and new yarns that are maybe even better than the one before.
Yeah, for sure.
You see, so for recycling, it's not such an issue. It's more for reuse.
Yeah.
And that's the issue where the whole industry has a problem with,
Yeah,
and that we have to work with. Yeah.
Yeah, because we want to reuse as much as we can, and we can see the results here. Somebody's working on something right now. That's amazing. But then Annabelle, I want to ask you, how do you deal with these fabrics? So the difference in quality of all the fabrics, how do you deal with that from an upcycling point of view?
So I can speak in terms of what's happening in Ghana. So they used to have bales where they were grade A quality, and it was 70 to 80% amazing textiles that has high value. But right now they only have 30 to 40% of high value textiles, maybe sometimes 10%. What is happening in Ghana is that they of course, remanufacture into garments that are not for long, like not too long of a use. So they have certain shirts that the offcuts they make into boxer shorts. The things that are stained, they would cut off the arms and make it into small kids' pants. So they have a very informal ecosystem of upcyclers and remanufacturers that work on different aspects of it. And that also is very much determined by the quality of the materials. There are also initiatives there that work in making fiber boards as well. So almost like downcycling or recycling into a different material. But there's of course no capacity to do what Ellen is doing here, like in terms of like textile to textile recycling. So that's something that is lacking in the industry there. That's something that they want to also want to have in their space because they have so much waste. So yeah, that's something that is actually a gap in the current ecosystem in many, many places, not just Ghana, in Tanzania, in Jaipur, also many, many places. So maybe the knowledge should be shared. And I'm really excited to be on this panel. Actually, we need to talk.
Yeah. So, the question to all of you is, how do we share that knowledge?
Who wants to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we keep doing what we do, and we hope to inspire by speaking to a larger audience, making more unique and desirable products. But also, like this installation that we did now at Beursplein, it's something like really back to the core of One Off. Like, why did we start it? And it's just purely because we also saw firsthand how much there's left behind, and that's what I also want to share with people actually joining the installation or just crossing by. I think step by step, and maybe also your friends, just make it very close in your community.
I think if you start small and
Yeah,
start
exactly.
local,
Yeah,
and then you can go from there, right? Because like change comes from within. I
yeah,
think a smart person once said that.
Yeah.
And I think there are really a lot of challenges, but I think it's better to focus on what is possible than on what isn't, especially within the fashion industry, because there's always a barrier. But yeah, break the barrier,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Ellen, did you want to comment on the challenging part as well?
Yes, I wanted to say something about sharing. What we also realized that it sounds really easy and making from an old sweater a new sweater, maybe also from your perspective, but it's not. And especially if you want to go to more bigger volume. And so we realize you still have a lot of things to do. We believe that this transition is here for another 10 to 15 years. And what we're doing with this factory, apart from the fact that is and making brands enthusiastic, we also want to make a blueprint of this. We call it Upcycle Hub, like regional, and also like being able to export it to other regions or countries or whatever. And we also invite a lot of companies to our facility. So, for instance, next week we have 16 textile producers and brands from Bangladesh coming over to us. And then we have a conversation with them. So that's how we try to do it.
Yes, it's really about partnering with other parties that are
And sharing knowledge, but it's not easy. That's what I wanted to say. Every time I realize again that it sounds so easy, but it's difficult. And that's, I think, the biggest gap also in circular textile, that people think like, oh, we have a lot of waste. We need to make the brands enthusiastic, but there in between, there's knowledge about developing fibers, developing yarns, to have the sorting process. And it's too much talking and not enough about doing recycling from what we're actually doing. And that's what makes me a little bit nervous. If you see what's happening in the planet, and we're buying so much more products. So I think that needs to change. I think people are not taking it very seriously, to be honest. We talk about it, but it's still 0.3%.
it's in the air, but people are just going on with their lives.
And recycling, actually really making new fibers from it, it's necessary, because if we buy new fibers, it costs 50% of the CO2 emission from the whole chain. So having old fibers, or making new fibers from old clothes, is like the solution. to upscale and make this fashion industry more sustainable, and nothing really happening. And if you talk about the 0.3%, that's all mostly rPET and industrial waste, whereas we're talking about old clothes.
Yeah, I think it's very human to recognize the mistake and not do anything about it.
Yes.
And then building on that, how can we build partnerships that improve this? So how can we work with governments? How can we work with brands? How can, because you're doing this, right? You're partnering with a lot of people. How do you go about this?
I think, as Ellen said, is not easy. I think it's really about mutual respect, and also respect for the material and the people who are working on this. The fashion industry has a lot of ego to it. We have to say, has a lot of ego, and I think people need to stop talking, start doing, and start listening. Listening to each other and putting it into an action plan. So we had a talk just now with a garment manufacturer in Cairo, and that was very interesting because they're looking at how do we create a micro factory within a production factory space that focuses on collaborating with informal communities, sharing ideas, and bringing that upcycling process into a garment manufacturing space. So we want to work with people that speaks from the heart, that when you speak to them, you can tell that it comes from a good place and is not from greenwashing. Good partners are the way forward, and I think it's very important to understand who you work with and how to build that consortium around the different reuse pathways. So yeah, collaboration is not airy-fairy, super easy. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of communication, a lot of clear communication, and especially working with informal communities, you just need to shut up and listen.
Oh, well said. Yeah, it reflects a lot of things. I think a lot of themes are recurring within the sustainability thing. And unfortunately, there are some good sides. There's local initiatives, there's national initiatives, there's international initiatives. For example, we have the Wear for Life the movement, the reduce, reuse, recycle. Of course, that's a central point. But also the collaboration with the sustainability goals with Amsterdam Fashion Week and Copenhagen Fashion Week. So things are really changing. But of course, we want it to go faster, right? So then the one of the questions that comes from that is how do we accelerate the growth? Because yeah, how do we do that? Renee, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I think it's just starting with ourselves. I think if we all just do a little bit at your own house with your own clothes, buy just better, and just also think about if you buy something, what's going to be the next step when you don't wear it anymore. Is it something that's like super precious that you can actually give to someone or extend the life, or just make a plan for yourself and don't wait for the government to come up with all the solutions or with the companies to find this whole innovative ways of doing actually the things that we actually do. Yeah, because in the end, we are the consumers.
Yeah, and the consumer votes with their wallets, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and then Ellen, how have you seen this consumer role? How do you see it as a part in the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think the consumer is much further ahead than people think. I hear a lot of brands say that, yeah, but well, my consumer in the market is not asking for it. And I say, well, they didn't ask for climate change either, but it's there. And they know a lot more about sustainable clothing and circular clothing than mostly the brands do, because they're so busy with their work. They don't have all the time actually always to focus on it. So I think it's not so much the consumer. The bigger thing, what I really believe in, that the legislation needs to change. That I'm a true believer in it, because there's too many different certificates. For me, it's also difficult to see even when a brand is very sustainable or not. So I believe that we need a consumer label, like very easy, like A, B, C, D, E. And then, yeah, Primark obviously is somewhere in F or Z. I don't know, but I hope then that if we calculate that right, and that is, I really believe in measurement, because otherwise we have all these nice talks, but we don't really know if it adds to the planet, you know? So I think calculation, showing what the differences between brands, that will help, but also legislation. And what we do is we also lobby. So our team is like very busy, but we still need to talk to, like, so as tomorrow We go to the, we are in the little suitcase of Sustainable Tuesday. You know, it's where all these more sustainable initiatives are there. And then I'm there also on the platforms talking to the secretaries of the parliament and explaining them what is so necessary in this system. And also telling them like, hey, if we still have a legislation with only 7.5% old clothes needs to be put in, and nobody actually needs to do it, and the brands don't have to do it on an individual scale, and it can be up to 40, much more, and we need to change that. If that's not going to change, then so real circular textile, truly circular, is not going to happen.
Yeah, and so when you talk to these government officials, what do they tell you?
Well, the thing is, they have a lot of knowledge about in general, about like numbers, but not so much on actually doing it. So you had it, and you need to stand along the line, the production line, and you need to make these changes on the machine to make it happen. So actually, I try to tell them that the upcycling sector needs more money because we are actually doing it. And some of them have a very difficulty of still standing here. And
Because a lot of the ones in the Netherlands are
yes,
closing, right?
I was reading this new report, and I think that the Netherlands is like the second after the United States with the amount of chemical and mechanical recycling companies. We have 9 companies, it says, they say. So we're the second biggest in the world, but we're losing our front runners position if these companies fall down. So they need to be supported financially because they're doing a lot of this production development work. So I think,
How can we support them?
well, the legislation needs to change, and we need more funding to do that and take it serious. And at the same time, of course, we talk to brands, we explain them exactly the same. The good thing is they get a little bit nervous because they have to pay so much money because of this UPV. And they also start to realize that where's this money going to? And say, well, it's not going to us. So there we have a good discussion going on. I think some of the brands are going to help us going to the next phase in that.
Definitely. And then Renee, how do you see these legislations impacting you brand side?
My brand side, or
Yeah. Or just in general in the industry, maybe from around you.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think in the end, like if you have to do something, you're gonna do it, and that's I think then if you get from the top down these rules, then of course things will change. It's just like the impact comes from huge companies, and it's also something that in this capitalism world we have, they still have to earn money. And I think that's where the change is always difficult. And that's why there's always funding needed. And smaller companies can actually change easily, but they don't have the funding. So there is like always a big gap. Like we as a small company, we can adapt. But for instance, I've also looked into recycled fibers and post-consumer waste, but then you need quite like, and not with your factory, but then you need a high volume of fabric that you actually can buy. So there, I was already stuck because I couldn't buy those minimums. And I do think like if the government would help, then it makes also easier for those companies to at least also help us to sort of as the forefront, or younger companies that actually talk a lot or do a lot of activations. To tell the consumers and people about how important it is to use these kind of materials. And I think there we're a bit stuck. Like big companies, they already earn a lot, and small companies want to adapt, they can adapt, but they cannot not afford it.
So you either die a hero.
Exactly.
But we can make beautiful products for other brands, also smaller brands. So we don't have a very high minimum order quantity, to be honest. We did that on purpose. That's part of our business case, because otherwise we can only serve very big companies and brands. So we're not selling yarns. We don't do that, and not brands. Why not? Because it's a lot of development also to make nice fabrics. And but we do have a small, not that big minimum order quantity. So
Yeah, and then Annabelle, how do you see legislation here changing in a more international setting?
Yeah, this is a difficult question. I think most of the EPR legislations within separate countries, the EPR funding, of course, most of them stay within the country. I don't know why they're not going to you. I don't know where it's going. If it doesn't go,
Talk more.
yeah, you need to talk more, because that's what they're telling us. Of course, it's going to local recycling, upcycling initiatives within the Netherlands. It's great that brands are now held responsible for it, because they are now, of course, they have to pay a lot more. But the money, of course, does not go to all these communities around the world. Um, yeah, so that's something that is a barrier. And it's governments, it's organizations that do not cannot actually put the money in any other places except for the countries that they're in. So that is there's nothing that I can do actually with this, because the I think there should be a bit of a sharing margin, because of course a lot of the upcycling or recycling, or there's a lot of initiatives within the country, but there's also a lot happening where it actually ends up in. So I know the money is constrained, but then maybe in the near future they can look into something like this. But at this moment, it does not necessarily affect all these communities, because nothing happens.
Yeah, and I think also from a Dutch context, we're very about the individual, right? The Netherlands is one of the most individually oriented countries in the world. And I think a lot of other countries are very oriented towards community or towards a greater good, right? And then I think every time a change needs to be introduced, people always think, how is that going to impact me? And not how is that going to impact the people around me, right? So I think hopefully this conversation is a catalyst for this, but also I think also just other initiatives is how do we think about the rest and not about ourselves, right? Because I think there's so much going on all the time, and then but it always centers around a single person. It's always from a single perspective. But I think the change makers that you are, you're thinking ahead. You're thinking of how is this going to impact somebody that I don't even know, or how is this going to impact some place in 5 years or in 10 years, or and I think what's such a shame is that when you produce a low quality garment, there's nobody's thinking about anything. They're just thinking about profits, right? So that, yeah, that's it. It's not a nice thought, but it's just like it's the reality, right? And I think there is a drive from people, as you said, that the consumer knows and wants a lot of things, but the brands aren't really following along. And then my question to all of you is, how is this crowd and how are other crowds going to be able to impact the brands or impact the legislation or anything? How can they make change for themselves, for others? Sorry, big question again. So how can everybody make change for others? That's what I'm saying.
Buy from others. Maybe you can buy from someone else, and then you help someone actually sell their piece, and you have your beautiful new one. Yeah, work together.
Well, we're a business to business solution, so that's a little bit different. I had a brand and we rebought that brand, so we're gonna launch it as also as a showcase. And so when we launch it, then please buy that one, because that's like an example. That's an example like what is possible. But I think also, I mean, we say stop talking, start walking. It's also for the brands, like they really have to start now, even if the legislation is not there yet, it will be there in like 2 or 3 years for sure. And if they're not doing anything now, they have a problem in the future because they have no knowledge on it. I think the consumer could talk, and these people here, they're all interested in this subject, no? So they could share what we're doing and explain also the issues that there is with the legislation, because like reading 30 pages of English legal stuff is really stupid to do in my daily work. But I did it to find out that it's only 7.5% and there's no push behind it from the government. So we're all talking about truly circular, and there's none of it. And we should all like raise our hand, like this not okay, you know? And it's not only about sustainability, it's also about regional development. Because if we have a factory here or designers, you're talking about communities, etc. But also for us, if we have here new resources and new yarns within Europe, we can have new knitters and weavers working on this. So we have to tell our government, that's my point that I want to make this week, that we need, if we really want to change and accelerate, they need to do something and not just ask for a foundation that takes money from the brands, because that's what they do. And after that, nothing really happens. And the money never gets to the upcyclers that actually doing something about it.
Because there's so
That's
many
a
levels,
real
right?
issue. And that's a legislation issue. And when everybody that's why I'm keep on telling it, and it's a very boring thing to sell, because I'd rather make clothes and nicer, sustainable yarns and fabrics. But this is the big issue that needs to be addressed.
And how do you see that changing?
Well, via LinkedIn, via social media.
Yeah.
I mean, we are it's more on the stage. Maybe you can say something about it.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chanel. I'm founder of Momster, and we are proudly representing Bright Fiber Textiles. And as you can see, we are wearing a beautiful shirt. Stop talking, start walking. And actually, that's a perfect answer to your question. We all want you to have this shirt as a gift. And maybe you can tell a little bit about how the shirt has been made. And we want you to wear it and help us inspire, activate the whole industry and make this change together. So that's what we want to do.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yes. Maybe you can tell how the shirt has been made.
Yeah, well, there are local old clothes inside. So the chance that if you donated one of your clothes in the street somewhere, we have a sorting company in Bournemouth, so they sort it. And when it's not possible to reuse it, then we sort it on color and composition. We made new fibers from it. Our fibers actually turned out, we have a new lab, quite long. And so we're quite happy with it. And then we produce yarns within Europe. So we have a spinner in Spain, in Italy, and one in France. And then in Turkey, because we produce everything within Europe and Turkey, we made these T-shirts, fabrics and T-shirts. So, and it actually is perfect. It's quite warm. I think this makes it warm, not this.
Yeah, this makes it warm. Yeah. It's a real life example, right? So I think with this initiative, I want to talk about another initiative that we talked about earlier, Renee. We see here these nice bags. Here, I want to show you all. You can find them around your chairs as well. So these bags are for the installation at Beursplein. So if you have any waste, you put your clothes in this bag, you put the bag in the installation, and then together we can contribute to a better world. As you can see here, this is the counter. This is the amount of kilograms that have been obtained so far, and I really want to see this number as high as possible. So I also want to implore you all to please contribute. And not even to this, I want to urge you to contribute however you can, however small, however big, and I'm sure you'll be able to. So before we move on to the questions, I quickly want to ask for your applause for the beautiful speakers. Yes, thank you all so much. And now it's time for questions from the audience. I see. Okay, you can go first. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for really insightful panel discussion. I'm going to play a little bit of a demo here. So all of you mentioned upcycling and recycling, but is it really the solution? Because I've heard one opinion, for example, about secondhand items, that gives consumers a little bit of like a carte blanche to actually buy a little bit more because it's more sustainable and so on and so on. Is it the same thing with upcycling? Is it really the solution?
Solution for what?
For eliminating the amount of waste, right?
Yeah, so I think if you just narrow it very down to what we, for instance, do, is that we sell to stores that would normally buy new clothes, and then they have vintage pieces actually hanging on that same rack. And I think we sell to consumers who would normally buy something new, and they would buy something that's already existing. So yeah, if is it a solution for the whole world? I don't know, but I think it's a solution, maybe minor and very small, but it's definitely something, I think.
Yeah, now they also have already how to say it, every day they see a lot of cheap clothing, no? So it's better if they want to buy it, then buy a secondhand piece. And as it's when it's from truly circular material, it's a little bit more expensive. So they have a little bit less, how you say, it, prickle or stimulants to buy it. They have to think about it a little bit better. That's why we have to do more work on the details and how it feels and stuff. So to make it interesting. So I don't think that it leads to, but the thing is, everything leads to buying more clothes already. No, I don't really believe that.
I think if you actually look at the numbers, buying secondhand or buying something upcycled, recycled, in terms of the life cycle assessment, it is very beneficial. I think if I'm not wrong, there was a research about this. It cuts out about 70% of the carbon emissions than buying a new product. So if you look at the numbers, it is actually a lot better. It's really about the frequency that you buy and the frequency that you consume. And if you buy a lot of things, you might as well buy secondhand. So yeah.
Very well said.
Are people buying something new plus something secondhand? Because secondhand, in their opinion, or upcycled means like almost no waste. Do you feel this is the behavior of new consumers, or is it not really the case? Is it going to be with the substitute cannibalization, per se, of a category of the new clothes by category of upcycled or vintage clothes?
So I think I want to summarize what you just said and then move on to another question. Please, if you want to continue the conversation, you can go do afterwards. I think it's not the solution, but it's part of the solution. And part of the solution is education, awareness, and action. Please, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so passionate about beauty project. I don't know whether I can speak, but I'll try. Actually, I will introduce myself. My name is Jasmine. I'm really touched about the recycle project. I almost cried because I've been a recycle since I was 14 years old. I'm from Namibia, and my first recycle project clothes was from my mother old clothes which I've made. And afterwards, before that, then I was discovered as a boot embroider. And then I won a prize of gold. I was like three stars. And on my 15th, I've made my velvet and satin collage of the alcohol material. And then I keep on going because we did not have a lot of money to buy some clothes. So I was like kind of boring, and I was wearing something, and I just pressed something again. And I went on with a little bit of like 3 pieces. And I have still the photos. I'm actually kind of checking while I'm standing. At the moment, I want to keep it short. I have about 400 pieces at home, which have been recycled in haute couture. I'm still not discovered in Netherlands. Of course, I'm shy. I hope, of course, now I'm here.
Keep it short.
Wait, my question is coming.
And then what's your question?
You close to. I'm trying to get close to the right people. Because my challenge to come here, I got the email from you guys. My question is, how can I play a role as a designer, as a out of a trash designer from Namibia since 15 years? So then you talk about 36 years, or roughly, recycle. How can I play a role to design for this beautiful old material, what you guys calling recycle?
I think she's the one to talk.
So, around you? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, please be seated.
Yeah, I mean, you should put it out there. Are you putting your pieces? Are you selling your pieces here in the Netherlands?
It's in my house. It's ready. I just put them up. And then
You need to sell them. You need to put it out there. You need to market it. You need to start a brand. I think that's the way to do it.
possible. I have been making some design for professional designers for designing. I had everybody ask me to make for them clothes, but to take the step to the next level, it's really shook. I the anything but fish.
But you are a fashion designer.
Just mail all three of us, and maybe we can help.
Maybe email
Maybe
all,
mail all three of us. Send you some pictures.
You,
and
you asked how to get close. I think you did it right now. So that's amazing. Yeah. Big up to you.
Applause.
Yeah, big up to you. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Okay, go ahead.
Again, the impact of for the government, what can they do to speed up the process into upcycling and becoming more sustainable? Because now indeed they only have like putting taxes on the amount of textile to put out, but yeah, we have other ideas.
Yeah, I mentioned already before, maybe not briefly, but that money that's been taken from the brands, we need that to be spent on the upcycling business, because like everybody, also the smaller companies and medium size, they need more funding to develop the yarns, the products, to do all these projects. Not a pilot, but making a sustainable business case out of it. So needs much more money needs to go into this business, and I don't know what happens with the money, but it stays somewhere, and it's now going into the right direction, and that's what we keep on telling the government. And at the same time, what I just said before, they need to maintain, or the legislation is very open. So they don't say to brands like, hey, you have to pay for every kilo that comes in into the Netherlands. And if they don't do that, they have to pay, yeah. But if they don't put any of these old clothes back into their collection, they get no punishment at all. So actually, it's just a means to get money from them, but not stimulating the industry. And that's actually the issue. So the only thing what we can do is actually say it and tell them this needs to change, that it shouldn't be 7.5% of their collection, but why not 30 or 40%? And yeah, that's what we all need to tell, also our government. And tomorrow it's Sustainable Tuesday. And I would just like invite everybody to respond on our LinkedIn messages, everything that we say about it, like agree with it and say, this is crazy. Like I just sent in an opinion piece to one of the Dutch newspapers or some of them. So we hope that it's been picked up. And so we will start a campaign on it, and everybody that says something about it, that's what's needed, I think. That's the best thing. One more thing. The Dutch government always says, yeah, well, we need to wait for Europe because the brands are also selling in Europe. So, but that's not, we are front runner up. If we're not staying front runner up, then these companies die. And then we're latest in line, which is sad, because that's also the acceleration that we're trying to show, and also the knowledge that we're all developing on this subject will go, not in the Netherlands at least, and somewhere else. So that was sad.
Yeah, so I think the answer to this question is amplification. So if you see something that you agree with, something that touches you, something that you want to see change, interact with it, share it with somebody, send it to your friends, send it to your family, create or host a panel talk.
Yeah.
You can do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a good time to close. So I wanted to thank you all again. Thank you, Amsterdam Fashion Week. Thank you to the speakers. Give it up for yourself, please.